part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
We are back, baby.
It's been a minute.
It's been multiple minutes.
Yeah.
Multiple minutes.
It's been a crazy few weeks in the Otero household.
I'll tell you what, this last month has been a hell of a decade.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. We appreciate all the text messages and messenger messages on Facebook and reaching out, asking where we're at and what's going on. I'll let Jason tell you whatever he wants to tell you, but suffice to say, it has been a hell of a few weeks in the Otero household.
Yeah,
so.
It really has. So, ran into some health issues with my son. We were trying to figure out some things that were going on, and then ultimately found out last week that he's been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, which is an autoimmune disease that could happen when you're 5. It could happen when you're 50. It's all the luck of the draw.
It's not the voluntary kind. It's not type 2.
It's not voluntary.
Yeah, it's not the voluntary diabetes.
I do appreciate everybody that's reached out with concern and care and wondering what's going on. This sucks, but we are figuring out how we'll learn to manage this. And I'll tell you what, when you see how resilient your kid is dealing with grown-up stuff and how brave and courageous they are, I mean, it's really been inspiring. So thank you for everyone that's thinking about us. Continue thinking about us. If you're somebody that prays, we would sure appreciate it. But today's a good day. Today is actually my son's birthday.
Yeah, the big 1-4.
The big 1-4, like not just barely a teenager, it's teenager.
Full-on teenager.
Yes, and it felt like it. He rode himself to school on this electric bike.
Yeah,
which was weird. It was like not quite driving off to school, but you hear a little electric bike. Zzz, so it was kind of neat. But yeah, we are back. I had to take time out for quite a while, and I might need it again. It's hard to say, but I'm in a spot where I'm ready to talk ball cards again. I'm excited, and man, I picked a heck of a few weeks to not be talking about things in the hobby. We sure do have a whole lot to talk about, but again, just thank you everybody that was very, very thoughtful, checking in on us. You know, people can't miss you if you never go away.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
So we know we at least have a handful of fans that reached out. To those of you tuning back in, had no clue, do better. Speaking of doing better,
what's that?
I need y'all to do some reviews on the podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Get the word out. More and more people are listening. The podcast is growing. We're super excited about that. More and more people are showing up to shows, introducing themselves. We love this, and we want to know how many of you are connecting with it. So if you take a minute, leave a review, tell your friend about it. We're good for at least one laugh and maybe one perspective that'll help you a little bit in the hobby.
We like to think that that's the case.
You know what I realized?
What's that?
I didn't tell anybody what this is or who we are or where we're from. This is the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
I'm Jason.
I'm Gary.
And as always, we are brought to you by the Press Play Podcast Network.
We had like a 5-minute intro before we got to, who and what we are.
It's a little dicey. We got to shake the rust off here.
Cheers.
Cheers.
No beer today. We're actually sipping a little bit of the whiskey.
I got a little bourbon going, a little E.H. Taylor that I picked up down at Buffalo Trace.
Nice.
That's as snooty as I will get. If you ask me another question about bourbon, I will make up an answer because I probably don't know.
Yep, fair enough.
We do have a friend that does.
We do.
Do we give him a shout out? He's outside the network. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm thinking about doing that. I'm going to.
Go ahead.
Do I want to? Yeah, I will. I like him. I don't know if I like him. I love him. I don't know if I like him.
That's fair.
Buddy of ours has a podcast, the Buckhorn Podcast.
If you like bourbon and you like to hear people snootily talk about it as if it all doesn't taste basically the same, then it's a great podcast.
I would like to add in that as I've listened to it, one thing I like about it is it's that, but it's also like the conversation you would hear in a barbershop as a kid, like in the late 80s, early 90s. Like just random. You haven't listened to enough episodes. You've been on it, and I probably listened more than you have.
No, I don't know. I've listened to a few. I've been on several times. I know that we got into a very strong and detailed conversation about Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
We don't need
to go there? Okay, fair enough.
I don't know if that's appropriate for the network. But anyway, check them out if you want to hear about bourbon. I did not get paid for that advertisement.
Yeah, never will.
But anyway, let's jump in to some hobby news. We got a lot going on.
Yeah,
My goodness, what is happening? Rome is burning is basically what Panini is saying.
pretty much.
So Fanatics is just taking over the world. You want sports cards? We got it. You want apparel? Yeah. You want experiences? We got it. Oh, sportsbook, where the more you spend, the more credit you get in the
And
Fanatics
listen,
store.
I'm not gonna lie. The Fanatics Sportsbook, the app, the user interface on the app is hands down the best. I have used FanDuel. I have used DraftKings. I have used Tipico. Hands down, the Fanatics app is far and away the best. Also, if you're listening and you are a sports gambler at all,
Tell me.
feel free to reach out because Jason and I both are in the beta and we both have a few invites left. And if you sign up through one of our invites, we both, you, whoever signs up, and me or Jason, gets $100.
You have to do a $10 bet.
You have to make a $10 deposit.
Is it legal
and a
for us
$10
to ask
bet.
for this on here?
Why would it not be?
I don't know the rules. I feel like there's always like a Micro Machines infomercial at the end. All of it is subject to in
Yep.
this state. If
No, I
you
think-
need help,
I think we're good.
I do have a friend who texted me. You all know who it is because we've had him on here. Drew, our buddy, the gambler. He texted me a photo. He's like, "Man, I love Fanatics. They're giving out these jerseys for free." And it was like it was like $150-$200, and I was like, "Bro, you had to spend like $1,100 to $2,000 to get that." And he's like, "Bro, that would be 10% rewards."
We get 1% rewards.
So shout out to Drew, just sticking to this hobby. We've all got our own, but Fanatics is taking over everything, and they are just stepping right into the sandbox of Panini, taking all their toys and saying, "I'll take this, I'll take that."
Yeah. Well, here's what I imagine happened. This is what just educated guessing gets me in a couple of conversations. Panini, like morons, tried to sue Fanatics. And their lawsuit basically boiled down to, we had a monopoly and now you're going to have a monopoly and we don't like it. So wah. They did that knowing that Fanatics had literally all the dirt in the world on Panini. Like screenshots. Go read the countersuit filing. It's 30 pages. It's entertaining. It does not read like a lawsuit. It reads like it's being written for those of us in the hobby to like look at it and laugh at Panini.
Yeah.
At that point, the NFLPA went, wait a minute, Panini admitted that they've used cooked books? I'm going to guess that gives us the right to invalidate their contract with us, which they did. They sent a cease and desist letter to Panini saying that effective immediately, you are no longer allowed to produce any items that have the name or likeness of an NFL player. Congratulations.
Damn.
Yeah, that's a giant bag of F around and find out is
Yeah.
what that is.
Yeah, because you can't even do the cartoon cards at this point.
No image, no name. No, you could do, they still have the NFL license, so they could make a card that just has the Bengals logo on it.
Hey. What was was it Upper Deck that did the set where they were the hollow stickers?
Yeah, but that was just inserts into like a real product.
Yeah, but I just remembered.
They were cool.
You really felt like you hit something.
Yeah.
I think there's actually a market for people still buying those stickers.
Yeah.
But you got to have a lot of them.
Yeah. But no, so that's what's happening there. I'm surprised. It's been about 2 weeks since this all came out. It came out right before we had to go on little unexpected hiatus. I'm surprised that at this point, Panini hasn't tried to at least salvage. The only fiscally responsible thing for Panini to do at this point is to just sell those licenses
Yeah.
to Fanatics and be done with it. But what seems to be happening is Panini has decided to put their foot down and say, we would rather watch this whole thing burn than give you guys anything. Which leads us to a real weird scenario where, and I think there's a chance that the NBA PA does the exact same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they see what's coming.
Yeah,
so it's a matter of how they want
to. To a weird scenario where there's a better than 50% chance, in my opinion, that for the next 3 years, we are not going to have a licensed football product. We will only have unlicensed football product. Which
now, I've heard some of
destroy
these
the market.
statements you made before where it was like for the next 2 or 3 years, this or that. I'm trying to remember the last one. It didn't end up being quite that long, but I don't know how in the world they figure something out for this year at the very least. I don't know how in the world.
Topps could probably rush out a Chrome release for spring, like Prism would.
Can we just talk about how, oh my gosh, Bowman Chrome NFL football being back, Topps Chrome NFL,
yeah.
like I cannot wait for that.
Well,
Bowman's
those things
best
are
could be
definitely
fun.
happening. The question becomes, will they be licensed or not?
Yeah.
That's
Now,
the question.
if they're not licensed, but we have the NFLPA, what do you call them? Pajama cards. Basically, they can't wear uniforms. What would they have to do to make that a chase still? And that's what we were talking about. Like, you're going to have to nerf the product. You're going to have to offer something of value. Maybe they could get creative with some of the type of programs they did with Topps Chrome, where if you can turn in this or these parallels or build out this set and you take it to your LCS, you can have credit in the Fanatics store. I think they are showing that they have the creativity to figure it out. The problem is nobody wants to wait 2 seasons. I'm sick of when it's NFL season. I want to open up that year.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
Yeah. I think that
If we take a year off to get on time, okay.
right. I think that the issue is not whether they do all those things to make a non-licensed product something that people want. I think at the end of the day, there's only about 10 or 15% of the collecting public that's interested in a non-licensed product. And those are the people who are the true collectors and the true set builders. And those people are awesome. I appreciate them. They buy tons of stuff in my value boxes every week at shows. But the other 80% of the people in this hobby are turn and burn. They collect, but they're
chasing.
Yeah, they're chasing.
Yeah.
And if we have a 2-year window, 3-year window with no licensed football product, it could be apocalyptic for the football card market.
Yeah.
It really could be. I've been thinking about this for the last week. There's an argument to be made that buying up any of the current crop of 2023 licensed product that's out since before this came out. So that would be Score. That would be Legacy. That's about it right now. Although they have, I think that Panini's treading the line of we already had certain products printed, so we're going to release those. We're not going to make any more new ones. So that means that we'll get Elite. We will get Donruss. We'll get 2 or 3 of those lower end products. There's an argument to be made that stacking some of that retail product and just holding it back, because this might be the last draft class we have for a minute of licensed product with a logo and a team name on it.
Yeah, we've already played out this experiment a little bit when we had the delays from COVID and we were doing college uni stuff, for the rookies. And let's be honest, unless it's a top 5 player from that class, and they're still not holding that kind of like
they're 20-25% of the value.
Yeah, like your Jamar Chase stuff, like
you're in line with Leaf.
Yeah, and it's getting picked over first. Like people are waiting a year on the rest of it. In the immediate, if you're chasing, there'll be something there. I think they're going to have to do some creative Easter egg stuff with it. The other approach I would like is, and Leaf has done some of this with a Pro Set.
Yeah.
Like pick out some really good vets to do autos with. You already are going to be, you're struggling if you don't do something, but you're going to have to come up with some cool cut autos, some unique pieces.
If you do some on-card stuff, really well designed, nice game used, chunky patches, things like that,
you could do
maybe okay.
You could do like throw in a few more booklets than normal, right? Yeah. Some of that type of stuff where you're hitting several Hall of Famers, but they're going to have to pay for that too. They're going to have to get those autos. They're going to be paying to get them back quickly.
The bigger thing that my question is this. So say this happens. Say we have only non-licensed football stuff this year, and we get Topps Chrome comes out. and Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud are obviously the big chases there. Do their rookie cards that are unlicensed long-term hold as much value as their first licensed card when the license comes out?
Or does their Bowman first hold more value than their non-licensed?
Yeah, because at least it's in a licensed
It's in
jersey.
a licensed uni, and it's
Yeah.
a brand that's about to pick up NFL.
Yeah.
I would love to see that happen.
Oh,
I would
for
love
sure.
to see some of that prospecting, Bowman first, chasing some of that from Bowman U. I think that could be it, but I think you're bringing up a good point. Like, my gut tells me you wait a couple years later, they're going to release that class again with those quarterbacks. But, man, it could be some scarcity. So, two ways to play that. Buy up the stuff nobody wants and sit on it. And then there's a
Legacy's
risk that-
actually a really good product this year.
I don't hate Legacy. I like some of the parallels. I think it's actually a prettier product than
They
people
put
give it
some
credit
pro
for.
uni rookie stuff in it.
Yeah.
The higher end cards out of that are in pro unis. So,
Yep.
I mean, it's Anthony Richardson stuff, and he's not going to be good at football, but
But yeah, so Fanatics, Panini, it seems like Panini knows where this is heading, so they're just going to be a pain as long as possible. I don't hate the idea, but eventually it's going to cost them in court.
yeah, I don't understand. Like I said, the only fiscally responsible thing to do is go, hey, we'll sell you these licenses for whatever and be done with it, and then go back to making soccer cards and your wrestling cards and your UFC cards
Yep.
and go nuts. Like, have fun.
Yep. So that happened.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see what plays out with the NFL stuff down the road. Another one, a product that we don't hate as much as some do, adamantly, is we kind of like some of the Leaf products.
Yeah.
And Brian Gray, that's been a part of that company for quite some time, it's announced that he's leaving.
Owner and CEO.
So you have a theory of what's happening there.
So I think that based on a few things that I've heard and the way that Brian worded his press release, I think that Fanatics bought Brian out of Leaf and he's going to end up at Fanatics. And you say what you want about Brian Gray, and he's got a lot of people that hate him in this hobby. But I don't know that there is another person available to Fanatics with his skill set and industry connections that could come in and from day one run a trading card division.
Right.
They tried to bring in people out from outside of the trading card world. They tried to bring in Josh Luber. That was an unmitigated disaster. The guy just didn't understand the trading card hobby. He brought his sneaker world to it. It's not the same.
Right.
The sneaker guys are the fad guys. The hobby guys, long term, we hate those people. So I think that as much as people can say they hate Brian Gray, and he can be cheesy, there's very few people with his experience and skill set on the market that could come in and immediately head up a division for them and do it successfully. I think that's what's happening there.
Yeah.
The question becomes...
Do any of the... Well, never go ahead.
Well, no, the question becomes now who's going to step in at Leaf and run the show there, and are they going to be able to continue to do some of the cool things that Brian did? Because again, hate Leaf, love Leaf, whatever. They've
Trinity, Exotic. There have been some cool...
Well, and they've done one of the things they've done really well.
Bless you.
One of the things they've done really
Can
well.
I tell you, can I interrupt you there?
Yeah.
Did you know the original full statement for bless you when someone's sneezing?
No.
So it's got some Salem witchcraft stuff type
I
of
don't
going
know that
on.
I like this.
Oh, yeah. Early colonization, Puritan language. So when somebody would sneeze, people would say, may God bless you in this time of weakness when the devil may take your soul. It was
Wow.
believed that you were opening your soul up to evil things happening whenever you sneezed. Could you
Interesting.
imagine living in the Midwest with a high pollen count and
just-
you're in the middle of church just people chucking holy water everywhere praying over you?
That's an interesting piece of
Anyway.
information. Back to Leaf. One of the
Apparently
things-
you weren't blessed.
One of the things they've done really, really well in the last 18 months or so is they have released quite a few cards that have become very desirable on demand individual cards. So they've done autograph stuff for soccer. The Leaf Momentum set They did some really cool things where if you collected the whole set as it came out, there was a huge reward at the end of it. The anime cards that they brought out, the Joe Burrow, the Otani, like they've done some really cool things, and I hope whoever they bring in to replace Brian continues down that path.
Yeah. We still don't know exactly where he's going. There could be a whole scandal we're unaware of, but it's not a bad play. It would make sense for his experience to be brought in to Fanatics. That's what they're paying for, right?
Yeah.
If they bring him in.
Yep.
So, yeah. Let's move on to some things that have happened in sports. I want to start out with one that I saw all over the internet, so it's true and factual. Joe Montana, heck of a quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Some would argue one of the best.
Okay.
You know where this is heading, so you can't have a the listeners at home.
No, I wouldn't argue that, but
many would.
Yes, I understand.
Many would look at his accolades and say, you know what? This man has accomplished a lot in this
I would say
position.
he's one of the most accomplished.
Yes.
I would give you that.
Well, just recently, and these aren't my words.
Okay.
This is Hall of Famer Joe Montana.
Okay.
I didn't say it.
Go ahead and spit it out.
Who did? Joe Montana. When was Joe Montana in the league?
1979 to 1994.
Okay, so good run. Who else was in the league at that same time down in this little town called Miami?
Oh, I mean, Dan Marino.
So
was
basically, I'll cut to the chase because I'm just milking this for all it's worth.
Yeah.
Joe Montana said that Dan Marino is without question the best quarterback he has ever seen. He immediately followed that up with, I didn't say the greatest, I said the best. So I started reading that article. I was very excited because it makes me happy every time something good is said about Dan the man. And he's like, well, I didn't say greatest. Those are more about accomplishments. But when it comes to best, his ability to throw the ball, his release, all those things, Dan is still the man.
I agree with Montana that Dan Marino still to this day has the fastest release I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I hope it's not true for his wife, but on the football field, fastest release I've ever seen.
That was
solid.
Uncalled for.
But funny.
And rude. And I'm offended on behalf of Dan. And I'll not stand for that kind of disrespect.
I wonder if the isotoners come into play?
I don't want anything else.
No
I don't
isotoners?
want you to say anything else. Nothing else. Nope. Don't
Lease
repeat
is
it
out.
a third time.
Lease is out.
Oh, my gosh. All right, moving right along. That's what I get for talking up a freaking Dolphin.
Yep, agreed.
The Angels have once again found a way to destroy their franchise in a time where they had more talent than they've had in a very long time. Gary, walk us through how they've done it once again to their fan base in a year that nobody thought it would be possible.
So it boils down to, and we'll get to all the details, but Artie Moreno is, I don't know where he got his money, but my assumption would be it's second or third generation money because he's too stupid to have earned enough money to have bought a baseball team. So the Angels, who started the year really strong, then Mike Trout got hurt, and shocker, and then they kind of leveled out. Coming to the trade deadline, nobody with a brain in their head thought that the Angels had a legitimate shot to make the postseason. And even if you thought they had a shot to squeak into a wild card, nobody in their right mind thought that they had a chance to actually win anything. So what does Artie Moreno do? He comes out and says, we are absolutely not trading the guy that we could trade and completely restock our farm system for the next 5 years and build this team to where they could actually contend. We're not going to trade that guy. Instead, we're going to trade some of our very top prospects for middling starting pitchers to prove that we're trying to win so we can try to keep Shohei. Well, since that trade, the Angels have gone like 7-19. They're completely out of everything. Trout came back for one game. It wasn't good. They shut him down for the rest of the year. Otani gets injured. And what do the Angels do 3 days ago? Every single guy they traded for. Randall Grichuk. The only person they didn't put on waivers was C.J. Cron. Randy Grichuk, Hunter Renfroe, Lucas Giolito. Every guy they traded for, they put on waivers.
Yeah.
So not only Are they going to lose Ohtani in the offseason for nothing?
Mm-hmm.
They lost one of the top 25 prospects in baseball and a top 200 prospect in baseball in Kai Busch and Edgar Caro. They get nothing in trade for Ohtani. They're going to lose him anyway, and they don't have any of the guys they traded for. It is mind-numbing
Yeah.
what they did. At least the Yankees, who also just put a bunch of people on waivers, they cut Josh Donaldson, they put Harrison Bader on waivers. At least they had a plan. They called up Austin Wells, they called up Jason Dominguez. Like they brought these guys up. They had a plan. The Angels are just like, eh.
The Angels are like, it ain't rocket surgery.
Yeah, it's just like, eh.
Yeah, it's disappointing, and I know this is a fan base that just doesn't understand. How do you keep telling us we have the greatest players in the game right now, yet it doesn't matter?
Well, because baseball is a unique sport. This is
That wasn't an actual question.
Oh,
It was
okay.
more rhetorical. But everyone would love to hear you answer the question they already know the answer to. Go ahead.
Do they know the answer to it?
Yes.
What is the answer?
Baseball is a game where you can have a talented player and a really crappy team.
Correct.
Yep. See, I knew that they were smart enough. Those of you listening at home, if you did know that, I apologize that you didn't get the 2-minute answer.
Well, it's the people who complain that Mike Trout isn't great because he hasn't won World Series that make me
or that
wanna
Dan
scream.
Marino is not great because he didn't win Super Bowls.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same idiotic arguments. Mike Trout could hit 100 home runs and only have 100 RBIs and hit 350, and the Angels could still lose 100
Yeah.
games.
Yeah.
Is Mike Trout trash?
Nah.
Of course not.
Right.
Anyhow,
You already mentioned it. Dominguez gets called up to the Yankees.
yep, him and Wells. A year earlier than I thought. I did not
Yeah.
think Dominguez was going to
How old is he now?
20.
Is he 20?
Yeah.
I was going to say 18.
But I
or
mean,
19.
everybody feels like he's been around forever. There's a lot of prospect fatigue with him. But the kid got called up to AAA a month ago and has raked.
Go dig up those firsts.
Raked.
Go dig up those
Yeah.
firsts. You got them. Now's the time for the base first, the stuff that's not
I've
super
got a
SP.
load. It's
Yeah.
going in this weekend. Hey.
And speaking of the Yanks, hobby news, the Volpe 101 Superfractor out of Topps Chrome, the auto was pulled. Where do you think that ends up landing if it sells?
15.
15K?
Yeah, 12
Now,
to 15 is my guess.
You pulled a 101 on Volpe before they did.
Yeah, it wasn't an auto, but it was a one-of-one Volpe.
It did not suck opening that.
It did not.
Out of a blaster, right?
I sold it a couple weeks ago.
What'd you get out of that?
12.
$12? That is something.
100.
1,200 pesos?
Something like that.
$1,200. Was it a listener?
No, it was not. I don't think.
Why didn't you convert him? You should have said, I'll sell this under one condition. That's what we need to start doing as shows. Hey, I'll meet you there. Can you get your phone out for the podcast?
Go ahead and give us a quick subscription.
We will pressure you into this. Speaking of that,
Yeah.
quick timeout. We are planning on launching some giveaways at shows. So if you are somebody that's there, you're already a subscriber. That's a piece of cake. You just got to show us you're
Come show us you're subscribed.
You get a raffle ticket. We'll be giving away some wax or some cards. We would love for you to be a part of that. Wander Franco update.
Not a lot. There's been one new allegation in the DR, but there's no details at all about it. I have a feeling that we're going to start hearing random weird things that are going to end up just not being real life. Here's the thing about Wander in the DR. Wander left the DR when he was 18 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And from all accounts has not been back. So anything that he's accused of happening in the DR happened when, guess what? He was a minor.
You can still do bad stuff as a
Sure
minor.
you can. Of
Yeah.
course you can. But the faux outrage, and this isn't just about this situation. This happens in our society in general. It makes me crazy. The virtue signaling and faux outrage is nuts to me. When I hear somebody say, well, I hear a guy say something like, oh, if that guy showed up at my house to date my 14-year-old daughter when he was 17, I'd punch him in the face. Buddy, I'm 100% certain that you tried to diddle a 14-year-old when you were 17. 100%.
Whoa.
You were
Whoa.
Were you a junior in high school? Probably. Did you find freshmen in high school attractive? Undoubtedly.
I don't stand behind these words.
Undoubtedly. Now, do I think that it's an ideal scenario for a junior in high school to date a freshman in high school? Probably not. Is it even remotely illegal or even immoral? Also, no. Now, caveat, if we actually get detailed information and factual information that Wander, as a grown adult, was messing around with 14, 15-year-old kids, that's a real problem. And there should be consequences for it.
Full extent of the law.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But we don't punish 17-year-olds for dating 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
It happens millions of times a day in this country.
Yeah.
You have a 14-year-old son. If he came home and said, hey, I got a girlfriend, she's 17, you'd be like, congrats, man.
High five.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
yeah, I think it's twofold. I don't disagree with what you're saying about, hey, let's figure out what's going on, get to the bottom of it, and we'll be able to address it then. We also know that there is a culture that has existed for people of power and people of wealth that have been able to take advantage of people without any consequence. We know that this happens. It happens in corporate structures. It happens with athletes. It happens with famous people. It happens with wealthy people. It happens with poor people. So I think this idea of, well, you can't prove it, also doesn't mean that it didn't happen. We
Correct.
can't prosecute without any kind of evidence with it. The thing that's interesting to me is he's on this exemption and he's still getting paid. That's a choice that they had to make. So, I mean, I think we're going to find out a little bit more information on it. Obviously, it has some hobby impact, but until we know more, we don't know more. I just hope that they know exactly what's going on. That's kind of where I am with it.
I wish that we still, as a society, operated under the idea that people are innocent until they're proven guilty.
Yeah.
I just wish that we still operated that way instead of immediately assuming guilt and immediately assuming worst case scenario and destroying people's lives.
And I feel like that innocent until proven guilty was something that we used to hear people be more proud of when they thought of our country. And then people our age and younger would prefer to start the other way.
Well, it's all the empty virtue signaling. By starting the other way, we are able to signal to everybody else how righteous we are. How dare that happen? We don't even know it happened. Yep. Like, we don't even know that there's circumstantial evidence.
Right.
All we know is that there were some posts on Twitter or on Reddit that got deleted, and the person in the posts we know to be a 20-year-old bottle girl in Miami. That's literally the only thing we know for sure. Everything else is literally just accusations and rumors. So until we know what's going on, chill the F out.
So let me ask you this. Are you buying Wander right now?
I have thought very hard about buying some big Wander if I get it cheap enough.
Yeah.
If I can buy some really low numbered autos on the cheap, yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
Well, I'm staying away from that one. Let's move on to some NFL news. So we already talked a little bit about what we can or can't expect over the next couple years with product. Right now we have Score and Elite on retail.
Well, Elite hasn't dropped yet, but it will here in the next
That's
couple
about
weeks.
it for 2023.
We got some draft pick stuff, but
what's going to happen with Hobby? We don't know. We don't know if anything is going to happen with Hobby football that's licensed. But let's move on to some NFL news. So we've had a lot of stuff picking up as we're getting closer to the season. First off, let's talk about what's going on up in New England. So we hear Zappy's done, but maybe not.
Oh, he's back on the practice squad.
Yeah, he's back on the practice squad. What do you think's happened there? You have a nice little theory. I
think Belichick's doing Belichick things where he wants to be smarter than everybody else and prove it. So they're only going to carry one quarterback on their roster to have an extra roster spot throughout the week. And then since the new rule is in place that you can have an emergency quarterback every week that is not taking up a roster spot, they will just dress Bailey Zappi every Sunday.
Yep.
And instead of paying him $300,000 a year, they're going to pay him $60,000 a year to be on the practice squad, and he'll be the emergency quarterback. They also just picked up Matt Corral off waivers, which weird to me because he did not look like he was going to be a functional NFL, even backup quarterback when he was in Carolina. So that being said, not a lot of quarterbacks look like they're going to be functional in Carolina. So,
yep. Speaking of functional quarterbacks, let's go down to Tampa. Baker's announced as the starting quarterback.
Yep.
Man, I tell you what, I've gone back and forth on him and the Hobby and what to expect. I think I have a dislike for him that is rooted clear back to the college football days that I've had a hard time getting past.
I like Baker Mayfield.
I like the chip on his shoulder. I almost had tears in my eyes when he came in late in the game for the Browns, and the Bud Light coolers got opened at the sports bar. I was at one in Westerville. There had to be 200 Browns fans in there, and just watching that happen in the moment, I was cheering for him in LA when he put that drive together. I think he has the stuff, but I think he's his own worst enemy as well. It'll be interesting to see what happens. How do you think he lines up with that offense?
I think he lines up with the offense well. I think the bigger thing he lines up with is Todd Bowles may be the most perfect coach for Baker Mayfield because Todd Bowles is as even-keeled as you're ever going to see a human being. Like, you know how people talk about Joe Burrow, like his blood pressure doesn't change regardless of the situation? That's Todd Bowles. Like, Todd Bowles is just like super level. He reminds me a lot of Tony Dungy, just like he doesn't get loud. He doesn't get excited. He doesn't get angry. He just is super level, which is really good fit for Baker. If you think about the relationship between a head coach and a quarterback the way you would like a marriage, when you have two really highly strung people that are married to each other, there's a lot of fireworks. It can be bad. If you've got two really low strung people together in a relationship, that doesn't tend to last very long because they tend to drift apart because nobody cares enough to.
Yep.
But when you have one person that's really passionate and really high strung and one person that's super level and even keeled, that tends to work really well.
Yeah.
And I think that we could see that in Tampa this year. And everybody, don't forget, they have some weapons. Mike Evans, really good.
Yeah.
Chris Godwin, really good. Rashad White, really good.
Yeah. So anything that Tom Brady has had his hand on, and any input in or any offense that's been built around them, has strategically had all the pieces in place. Over and over, we have seen it wasn't necessarily one big name. It was how all those parts fit together and what it created for the offense. And time again, Tom Brady was a quarterback where, who's this guy? Who's this Welker kid? Who's this guy? Amendola? Like, I mean, we could go on and on and on. And
they've
sitting on an offense that has,
they got Scotty Miller there too.
There's a lot of talent there. So, hobby wise, I've still been big on Baker. I still think
you
his
can buy
stuff's
his
out
stuff
there.
so cheap.
It's a flyer. It's a starting quarterback. Now, what's the risk with Baker? In my opinion, I think he creates chemistry issues with the coaching staff. I can't figure out another reason why the talent doesn't override enough for him to stay in a program. And it seems to be a reoccurring thing. Now, yes, Deshaun Watson, we guaranteed all this money, go out to LA, it's not the right fix. So, Carolina experiment, something's going on there that's created an issue where they're not trying to hang on to him.
Is there a chance that there's just been a run of bad luck for the kid?
I think there's a chance
like
of it.
Stefanski getting the job in Cleveland, that started off really good, and then Baker got hurt.
Yep.
And there was a loss of trust at that point because the coaching staff didn't have – we talked about this. The coaching staff didn't have his back. They threw him under the bus a few times, and he was legitimately hurt trying to play through it and help the team. So that was loss of trust. Then he ends up in Carolina playing for Matt Rule, who was an awful NFL coach. And he's no longer in the NFL. He's back in the college ranks where he's probably going to be pretty good because his style fits really well there. But not too many college guys fit well in the NFL. It's the exception, not the rule, that guys go from college to NFL and are successful. Then he just, at the end of the year, ends up out in Los Angeles just because they were desperate and they needed something. And he performed well while he was there.
Yeah.
Now he's in Tampa. I think that there's a narrative that, he's a problem. There's also a narrative where he's just had a really tough run of luck. Like, nobody looked good at quarterback in Carolina when Matt Rule was there. Literally nobody. I mean, you had multiple top 5 draft picks. All look like trash cans in that offense.
Yeah.
He went to LA and looked pretty good in that offense.
I think we would just say it's make or break probably.
I don't disagree, but you can buy his stuff so cheap. Like, you can find, I've seen rookie autos of Baker Mayfield selling for $50, $60. It takes 3 good weeks for you to triple your money.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, if he just has 3 good weeks, you triple your money. You can go buy his Donruss rated rookies for $2.
Now, I do think if it doesn't really pan out in Tampa this year. Something happens there. I think he becomes a journeyman backup, and I think he'll have a long career at that.
No, I agree.
I hope that he finds a way for it to click, because I'd like to see some of the flashes that we saw in Cleveland.
The talent's there. The arm is there. The movement outside of the pocket is there.
The competitive spirit.
Yeah.
I know that sounds cheesy, but
It's
he's
there.
always got a chip on his
Yeah.
shoulder. Yeah.
So I think there's worse guys that you could take a flyer on this year to make some quick money in this hobby.
Good news for everybody that likes football and football's favorite quarterback. Joe Burrow is back at practice.
Somebody told you all that, not to panic. He'd be fine.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for telling us, just like everyone else did.
Had the same injury.
I know. You had the same injury. You had the same career, quarterback.
No, not even close.
No, you both were professional quarterbacks.
It's true, but not on the same level.
You
Not
both
even-
had a college education and
not even remotely close. Nor would I ever pretend likewise. But I appreciate you trying to put that on me.
I know. I'll never stop. But Burrow's back. Excited about that. Love the guy. He's still expensive. Going to stay expensive.
Yeah, 'cause he's
Still
really,
buy him.
really
Still
freaking
buy
good.
him.
Yeah.
Still buy him. Arizona. Kyler's out. ACL stuff still going on. Josh Dobbs heading down there. What do you think that's going to do?
So there is the one thing you know about the NFL is it takes, so Josh Dobbs played one game in Tennessee last year and played really well, and his stuff quadrupled overnight. And now it's back to where it was. But he's probably going to start for 2 to 3 weeks at a minimum in Arizona. They have some weapons there. They've got a good running game. New head coach. There's a world where Josh Dobbs could 4x your money for you pretty fast because his stuff is dirt cheap.
Yeah.
Dirt cheap.
Yep. Let's head down to South Beach. Tua is chirping.
I mean, Tua's Tua. Like, bless his heart.
Well, this is a little bit new. We haven't seen him go after anyone like this.
Now, so Ryan Clark basically said, hey, from what I've seen and what I've heard, Tua did not spend a lot of time on his body this offseason. He looks a little plump. It seemed like he was a lot more concerned with getting his arms tatted up than he was with making sure his body was right. Well, somebody asked Tua about this at a press conference, and Tua started off gently, and by the end of it, he was basically, keep my name out your mouth. What's ironic about that is if Ryan Clark was still at his peak playing in the NFL, he would decapitate Tua. It would be bad.
Yeah.
It would be, if they just got into a straight up altercation at this point in life, Ryan Clark would murder
yeah.
Tua. He would murder him.
Yeah, I understand that.
He's been in the league for 5
That's not
years.
how
He would
trash
murder
talk
him.
works.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is I was always raised, don't open your mouth unless you're ready to swing your fists.
Cool. Well, anyway, here's what I have to say about it.
Okay.
Tua, listen, man. Just like I do, man. We're both pulling for you.
Go play.
You got to play some ball. And we have seen flashes. I think you've put together 2 or 3 weeks at a time that have really surprised some people. And as soon as they raise their eyebrows, then it just falls off.
Because you played a good defense.
You can chime in as you'd like. Statistically, there's a lot indicating that he's capable of playing a lot better than you think he is. However, you've got to be putting that together consistently enough to talk like that, in my opinion. I want you to be able to. I want to say Tua is not one to mess with. The problem is there's been and I have mad respect for his tenacity. No one would have blamed him if he would have retired coming off of those couple of injuries.
I think I would have.
Yeah, some serious moments there. So he definitely has some mental toughness. Anybody saying that he hasn't worked on his body needs to look at a photo of his neck and the surrounding shoulder muscles last year when he was bouncing his head off the ground. And now, clearly, part of the plan was him putting some weight on and building up some strength. Is he as lean? No, that's not who Tua is ever going to be. And it's a quarterback, bro. Look at Ben Roethlisberger.
He's Samoan, man.
Yeah, he is. And I don't know.
Leads the thickness for the most part. Am I wrong?
You're wrong for saying it. Let's move on. Let's move on, bro.
Okay, go ahead.
There goes our Samoan listener base. Trey Lance.
Trey Lance traded to the Cowboys.
My favorite part of this trade was the look on Dak's face.
He's a bitch.
Well, here's the thing with Dak. You could not have been given more ideal opportunities to be the lifelong guy there forever. Jerry Jones is begging for that quarterback. That's a lifelong Hall of Famer. He wants to give you the money. He wants to keep you around. He wants to get you a key to the city. You are the one in
Throwing
key
picks.
situations that over and over and over and over again. Look at you now. Trey Lance is in town.
Yeah.
You didn't think it was going to happen 2 years ago? I didn't think it was going to happen. It's happening, baby. It's happening right now. So, I kind of like to see what's going to happen. Here's my prediction. Dak tries to battle it out. He gets a spot, and then about halfway through the season, we see Trey Lance.
So I don't think there's a quarterback battle for two reasons. One, Trey Lance has not played but 3 games of competitive football in 4 years. That's a lot to overcome, period.
Sure, yeah.
He also, here's my thought process. The Niners gave up so much to trade up and get him. So much.
Yeah.
That for them to give up on him and trade him and keep Sam Darnold tells me that Kyle Shanahan, who I trust when it comes to quarterback evaluation, looks at him and goes, this kid does not have it. He does not have it. Mm-hmm. They took a big gamble on the athletic upside.
Yeah.
And it didn't pan out. I hope for Trey Lance's sake that he gets a real opportunity and can learn to do his thing. But
Purdy exceeded expectations.
Yes, but again, that offense, that specific offense, and the way that plays are called and the way that offense is built, you could roll just about any quarterback that has NFL experience into that, and if they had enough preparation, they're going to be reasonably successful. They'll be league average.
Zach Wilson over Trey Lance here?
I think Zach Wilson's better than Trey Lance.
Okay.
And I think my hatred for Zach Wilson is twofold. One, he's not a good football player. I think he's a better football player than Trey Lance. I think he's a better thrower of the football than Trey Lance. I think Trey Lance is a better athlete. But Zach Wilson's a trash can of a human being too, where Trey Lance seems like a nice kid. So I hope for good things for Trey Lance. I hope Zach Wilson gets hit by a bus in the middle of downtown New York. So,
why are you saying so many horribly offensive things tonight? Do you realize it?
I didn't think that was offensive. I thought that was just a very common thing to feel about Zach Wilson.
You're putting off big boomer vibes here. No offense to boomers. I know there's at least 7 of you listening right now.
Oh, gosh.
Go build your sets. Anyway, we're wrapping up this episode. I had something I wanted to ask you and I forgot.
Oh, that's
I need
not
to remember.
good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you give us a rundown of the next few shows we have? I know that I'm kind of jumping back into the circuit here.
You got 3 weeks in a row. It's going to be a big 3-week run for you.
Oh my gosh.
So this is Thursday, the 31st of August. So on the 2nd, I will be in Broadview Heights, Ohio at the Big Greenie Show. Excited to get off of the wait list and into that show. It's a really good one. Next weekend on the 9th, we will have an episode before then if all things align. But next weekend on the 9th, Jason and I both will be in Wheelersburg at the Field of Dreams Sports and More Show. Shout out to Justin Lamlin, who puts on a great show down there. It's a small show, but it's a good one.
Thank you, Justin.
The 16th, you have 3 in a row. 16th is South High, Columbus, monthly favorite show. And then new show in Newark on the 23rd. Yeah, the 23rd. Sporty D, Big Don, putting on a new show over there. Looks like it's going to be a good one. Don will do a good job promoting it. So, full month for me every single weekend. Jason's got 3 of the 4.
I'm scared to death. It's 3 Saturdays in a row. I have to get up at a decent time.
What's going to scare you to death is if you have one really good show, you're going to be in panic mode of restocking before the next one because you're not used to having to do that. I'm used to that game, so
yeah, I got to put all this money right back into it. No, but we'd love to see you at shows. We'll be having giveaways. Take a second and leave a review. If you've been listening and you've heard me say this 5 times, give some love, baby. We put out this content, ear candy for you, week in and week out, and 4 weeks off, and then a week back on. for 3 years now.
And where else can you hear one person say things they don't know are offensive and get chided by somebody else?
My God, Gary's been canceled 4 times in one episode. What else you look for? This has been the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
Bye now.
Peace.